Think we're live. Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the live stream. Today we're getting into chapter 29 of Jeremiah. If you haven't listened to part 1, 2, and 3 of Jeremiah, you can listen to the rest of this since we're live, but go back. You guys all here in the chat have all pretty much been following along the whole time. So bless you guys for that. And kind of talking generally speaking to people who watch this live and people who watch this later. So just keep that in mind if I'm speaking to a broader audience than is actually here in the chat. So I invited Tanakh Reader 123 to come to our chat. He's been kind of trolling my YouTube channel today, shaming us for making t-shirts that glorify our creator and saying that we're trying to profit off of God, which it couldn't be further from the truth. I actually could make a lot more profit doing other things if I was money motivated, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's not a bad thing to do something you dedicate your life to doing that brings him honor. Also creates an opportunity for us to reach other people who are still lost. But yeah, we'll see if he jumps in the chat. Hope to have a discussion with this guy. He's seems to be holier than thou, and kind of want to know what his deal is, to be honest. But I did notice that he's a big fan of biblical music, and so I submitted the question to him. So if you love listening to biblical music and somebody's dedicated their life to making music that worships and honors their creator, is it bad for them to make a living off of doing that, following their passion to serve the Most High and to serve His children? Um, it's actually been coming up lately, and it's not something that hasn't crossed my mind, but I believe that this is a service. I do this because I love my creator and I want everybody to know that he's good and to share his his word with them, to share his love and forgiveness with them, to share the gospel, which I think the gospel deserves an entire series of videos in and of itself. But because it's not just Jesus died on the cross where you were supposed to be and then rose again even, but the gospel of the kingdom of Yahweh, the gospel of the kingdom of Yahweh. Do we hear about the kingdom much when referencing the gospel? The gospel, I feel like, has been watered down and diluted to just be a cookie cutter Christian term that really doesn't tell anybody of the real good news that he's bringing his kingdom down. His kingdom's coming down here, New Jerusalem, and it's going to be amazing. And we're going to dwell with him. And another reason why all the feast days are so significant, because the feast days tell us the full gospel, don't they? From the prophecies that Yeshua has already fulfilled to the coming prophecies of him returning, and we will tabernacle with him. But anyways, I'm highly skeptical that he'll show up in here, because then we'd have to have a productive conversation instead of just trolling people's YouTube comment section. But I digress. Thanks for being here, guys. Hooter and Torah, the encouraging community. Roman Jeeper, Palmetto Paratrooper, love you guys. Thanks for being here. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. We're going to pull up Jeremiah chapter 29. Rescued. Hello. Hope you're having a good day. Um, so before we start reading, let's go ahead and open up in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, forgive me for getting too caught up into this whole little comment deal that's been going on today. Father, I pray that you'd help us to have grace and mercy on people, patience, and just to respond in a way that honors you, that represents you properly. Father, thank you that you're not done working on us, that that you're so patient with us as we go through the different stages of growth and learning. Um, Father, I just pray that this time that we spend reading your word would be edifying, that each of the people listening right now would be blessed for hearing your word this evening. Father, just thank you for them. Thank you for our families. Pray that you keep them safe and healthy. Help us as whether we're moms and dads or just sons or whatever role we play in this world. I pray that we would be fulfilling that position properly for me as a dad and as a husband. And I just pray that we steward all things that you've blessed us with in a way that's honoring to you. We just ask you to bless this time in the name of Yeshua. Amen. Okay, let's go ahead and get right in. All right, Jeremiah chapter 29. And these are the words of the letter which Jeremiah, the prophet, son of Jerusalem, prophet, sent from Jerusalem to the rest of the elders of the exile, and to the priests, and to the prophets, and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had exiled from Jerusalem to Babel. After Jeconiah the king and the sovereigness mother, the queen's mother, and the eunuchs and the heads of Judah and Jerusalem, and the craftsmen and the smiths had gone into exile from Jerusalem by the hand of Elisha, Elisah, son of Shaphan, and Gemariah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Sidkiah, sovereign of Yehuda, sent to Babel, to Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babel, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, Elohim of Israel, to all the exiles whom I exiled from Jerusalem to Babel, build houses and dwell in them, plant gardens and eat their fruit. Take wives and bring forth sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons and give your daughters to husbands, and let them bear sons and daughters, and be increased there, and not diminished. And seek the peace of the city where I have exiled you, and pray to Yahweh for it, for in its peace you have peace. For thus said Yahweh of hosts, Elohim of Israel, let not your prophets and your diviners who are in your midst deceive you, neither listen to the dreams which you are dreaming. For they are prophesying falsely to you in my name. I have not sent them, declares Yahweh. For thus said Yahweh, when 70 years are completed at Babel, I shall visit you and establish my good word towards you to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I am planning for you, declares Yahweh, plans of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and an expectancy. And you shall call on me, and shall come and pray to me, and I shall listen to you. And you shall seek me, and shall find me, when you search for me with all your heart. And I shall be found by you, declares Yahweh, and I shall turn back your captivity, and shall gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, declares Yahweh. And I shall bring you back to the place from which I have exiled you. Because you have said, Yahweh has raised up prophets for us in Babel. Thus said Yahweh concerning the sovereign who sits on the throne of David. concerning all the people who dwell in this city, and concerning your brothers who have not gone out with you into exile. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, see, I am sending on them the sword. See, I am sending on them the sword, the scarcity of food, and the pestilence. And I shall make them like spoilt figs, so spoilt as to be uneatable. And I shall pursue them with the sword, with scarcity of food, and with pestilence. And I shall make them a horror among the reigns of the earth, to be a curse and an astonishment, and a hissing and a reproach among all the nations where I have driven them. For they did not heed my words, declares Yahweh, which I sent to them by my servants and prophets, rising up early and sending them, yet you did not listen, declares Yahweh. You therefore hear the words of Yahweh for you, all you exiles whom I have sent from Jerusalem to Babel. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, concerning Ahab, son of Kaliah, and Sidkiah, son of Maaseiah, who are prophesying falsely to you in my name. See, I am giving them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, sovereign of Babel, and he shall strike them before your eyes. And because of them, all the exiles of Yehuda who are in Babel shall use a curse, saying, Yahweh make you like Sidkiah and Ahab, whom the sovereign of Babel roasted in the fire. Because they have done wickedness in Israel, and have committed adultery with their neighbors' wives, and have spoken a word in my name falsely, which I have not commanded them. And I am he who knows, and a witness, declares Yahweh. And speak to Shemaiah the Nehelamite, saying, Thus speaks Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, saying, Because you have sent letters in your name to all the people who are at Jerusalem, to Zephaniah, son of Maaseiah, the priest, and to all the priests, saying, Yahweh has made you priests instead of Jehoiada, and instead of Jehoiada the priest, so that there are no overseers in the house of Yahweh over everyone who is mad and makes himself a prophet, that you should put him in the stocks and in the iron collar. So why have you not reproved Jeremiah of Anathoth, who makes himself a prophet to you? For he has sent to us in Babel, saying, This captivity, sorry, this captivity is long. Build houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat their fruit. And Zephaniah the priest read this letter in the hearing of Jeremiah the prophet. Then the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, Send to all those in exile, saying, Thus said Yahweh concerning Shemaiah the Nehelamite, because Shemaiah has prophesied to you, and I have not sent him, and he has made you to trust in falsehood. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, See, I am bringing punishment on Shemaiah the Nehelamite and his seed. He shall have no one to dwell among this people, nor is he to see the good that I am about to do for my people, declares Yahweh, because he has spoken apostasy against Yahweh. Excuse me. Shalom, country dad. And JS Badger. Shalom, brother. All right. And farm people are filing in. Good to see you guys. So we're just on chapter 30, as you can see on the screen. Chapter 30. And the word that came excuse me. Never fails. This doesn't happen all day, and then I start reading and it happens. The word that came to Yirmiyahu from Yahweh, saying, Thus spoke Yahweh Elohim of Israel, saying, Write in a book for yourself all the words that I have spoken to you. For look, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I shall turn back the captivity of my people Israel and Judah. Excuse me, declares Yahweh. And I shall bring them back to the land that I gave their fathers and let them possess it. And these are the words Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and Judah. For this is what Yahweh said: We have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask now and see if a man is giving birth. Why do I see every man with his hands on his loins like a woman in labor, and all faces turned pale? Oh, for great is that day! There is none like it, and it is the time of Jacob's distress. But he shall be saved out of it. And it shall be in that day, declares Yahweh of hosts, that I break his yoke from your neck and tear off your bonds, and foreigners no more enslave them. And they shall serve Yahweh their Elohim and David their king, whom I raised up for them. And you do not fear, O Jacob, my servant, declares Yahweh, nor be discouraged, O Israel. For look, I am saving you from afar, and your seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob, shall return and have rest and be at ease, with no one to trouble him. For I am with you, declares Yahweh, to save you, though I make a complete end of all nations, where I have scattered you. Yet I do not make a complete end of you, but I shall reprove you in judgment, and by no means leave you unpunished. We've talked about this before. For our iniquities, we will be forgiven. We will be forgiven when we repent, but I shall reprove you in judgment, and by no means leave you unpunished. Sometimes you still bear the punishment for your misdeeds. Same thing with our children, right? As a father, we get to understand a unique perspective that our Heavenly Father has. When my son breaks the rules, he if he does right and he stops doing the wrong thing, for sure I forgive him, but he will be punished for doing the wrong thing, because I love him, and a father corrects those who he loves. Chapter 30, verse 12. For thus said Yahweh, your breach is incurable, your wound is grievous. No one pleads your cause to bind up. There are no healing medicines for you. All those loving you have forgotten you. They do not seek you. For I struck you as an enemy strikes, with cruel chastisement. Because your crookedness is great, your sins have increased. Why do you cry about your breach? Your pain is incurable. Because of your many crookednesses, because your sins have increased, I have done this to you. However, all those who devour you shall be devoured, and all your adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and those who exploit you shall be exploited, and all who prey upon you shall make a prey. For I restore health to you, and heal you of your wounds, declares Yahweh. For they have called you an outcast, saying, This is Zion, no one is seeking her. Thus said Yahweh, See, I turn back the captivity of Jacob's tent, and have compassion on his dwelling places. And the city shall be built upon its own mound, and the palace stand on its right place. And out of them shall arise thanksgiving and the voice of those who are laughing. And I shall increase them, and they shall not diminish. And I shall esteem them, and they shall not be small. And the children shall be as before, and his congregation shall be established before me, and I shall punish all who oppress them, and his prince shall be from him, and his rulers shall come from among him. And I shall bring him near, and he shall approach me. For who is this who pledges his heart to approach me? Declares Yahweh. And you shall be my people, and I shall be your Elohim. See, the storm of Yahweh shall go forth in a rage, a whirling storm. It bursts upon the head of the wrong. The burning displeasure of Yahweh shall not turn back until he has done and established the purposes of his heart. In the latter days you shall understand it. Interesting. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 1. At that time, declares Yahweh, I shall be the Elohim of all the clans of Israel, and they shall be my people. Thus said Yahweh, a people escaped from the sword found favor in the wilderness. Israel, when it went to find rest. Yahweh appeared to me from afar, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore I shall draw you with loving commitment. I am going to build you again, and you shall be rebuilt. O maiden of Israel, again you shall take up your tambourines and go forth in the dances of those who rejoice. Again you shall plant vines on the mountains of Shamaron. The planters shall plant and treat them as common. For there shall be a day when the watchmen cry on Mount Ephraim, Arise, and let us go up to Zion, to Yahweh our Elohim. For thus said Yahweh, Sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Cry out, give praise, and say, O Yahweh, save your people, the remnant of Israel. Amen. Verse 8, See, I am bringing them from the land of the north, and shall gather them from the ends of the earth, among them the blind and the lame, those with child and those in labor, together a great assembly returning here. With weeping they shall come, and with their prayers I bring them. I shall make them walk by rivers of waters, in a straight way in which they do not stumble. For I shall be a father to Israel and Ephraim. He is my firstborn. Hear the word of Yahweh, O nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, He who scattered Israel gathers him, and shall guard him as a shepherd his flock. For Yahweh shall ransom Jacob, and redeem him from the hand of the one stronger than he. And they shall come in and shall sing on the height of Zion, and stream to the goodness of Yahweh for gain and for new wine and for oil and for the young of the flock and the herd. And their being shall be like a well-watered garden and never languish again. Then shall a maiden rejoice in a dance, and young men and old together. And I shall turn their mourning into joy, and shall comfort them, and shall make them rejoice from their sorrow. So you guys, in reality, this is also part of the gospel. The gospel is not as narrowed down as it has been told most of our life. Verse 14, And I shall fill the being of the priests with fatness, and my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, declares Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh, a voice was heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children, because they are no more. Thus said Yahweh, Hold back your voice from weeping, and your eyes from tears, for there is a reward for your work, declares Yahweh, and they shall return from the land of the enemy. And there is expectancy for your latter end, declares Yahweh, and your children shall return to their own country. I have clearly heard Ephraim lamenting. You have chastised me, I was chastised, and I was chastised, like an untrained calf. Turn me back, and I shall turn back, for you are Yahweh my Elohim. For after my turning back I repented, and after I was instructed, I struck myself on the thigh. I was ashamed, even humiliated, for I bore the reproach of my youth. Is Ephraim a precious son to me, a child of delights? For though I spoke against him, I still remembered him. That is why my affections were deeply moved for him. I have great compassion for him, declares Yahweh. Set up signposts, make landmarks. Set your heart toward the highway, the way in which you went. Turn back, O maidens of Israel. Turn back to these cities of yours. Till when would you turn here and there, O backsliding daughter? For Yahweh has created what is new on earth. A woman encompasses a man. Verse 23. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, let them once again say this word in the land of Judah, and in its cities, when I turn back their captivity. Yahweh bless you, O home of righteousness, mountain of set apartness. And in Judah and all its cities, farmers and those who journey with flocks shall dwell together. For I shall fill the weary being, and I shall replenish every grieved being. At this I awoke and looked around, and my sleep was sweet to me. See, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, that I shall sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah, and the seed of man and the seed of beast. And it shall be that as I have watched over them to pluck up, and to break down, and to throw down, and to destroy, and to afflict, so I shall watch over them to build and to plant, declares Yahweh. In oops, sorry. In those days they shall no longer say, the fathers ate sour grapes and the children's teeth are blunted. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. My dad. In those days they shall no longer say, the fathers ate sour grapes and the children's teeth are blunted, but each one shall die for his own crookedness. Whoever eats sour grapes, his teeth shall be blunted. See, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I shall make a renewed covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Not like the covenant I made with their fathers in the day when I strengthened their hand to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim, my covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, declares Yahweh. For this is the covenant I shall make with the house of Israel. After those days, declares Yahweh, I shall put my Torah in their inward parts and write it on their hearts, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And no longer shall they teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, I know Yahweh, for they shall all know me. For the least of them to the greatest of them, declares Yahweh. For I shall forgive their crookedness and remember their sin no more. Thus said Yahweh, who gives the sun for a light by day, and the laws of the moon and the stars for a light by night, who stirs up the sea and its waves roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If these laws vanish from before me, declares Yahweh, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus said Yahweh, if the heavens above could be measured, and the fountains of the earth searched out beneath, I would also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, declares Yahweh. See, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, that the city shall be built for Yahweh from the tower of Hananel to the corner gate, and the measuring line shall again extend straight ahead to the hill Gareb. Then it shall turn toward Goa, and all the valley of the dead bodies and of the ashes, and all the fields as far as the Wadi Kidron, to the corner of the horse gate toward the east, is to be set apart to Yahweh. It shall not be plucked up nor thrown down any more forever. All right. Shalom, Pops. Shalom. I guess I don't have to type. You can see that. You can hear me. Country Fun, shalom. Just Genesis Designs. Good to see you, brother. All right. I did something. My computer's trying to load. It's doing this spinning circle of death. Oh well. Oh. You guys still hearing me? Somebody give me some feedback in the chat real quick. It's saying internet connection issues. Having trouble connecting, please check your internet connection. Okay, all right. Appreciate that, y'all. Yeah, I guess it's I don't know, that's weird. Oh well, at least we're still alive. That's good. All right. Chapter 32. Is that right? Yeah. We just read 31. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh in the 10th year of Siddekiah. Man, that's a really tough word for me. Sidkiyahu, king of Judah, which was the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar. Now at that time the army of the kings of Babel besieged Jerusalem, and Jeremiah the prophet was shut up in the court of the guard, which was in the house of the king of Judah. For Sidkiyahu, sovereign of Yehuda, had shut him up, saying, Why are you prophesying this? Thus said Yahweh, See, I am giving this city into the hand of the king of Babel, and he shall take it. And Sidkiyahu, king of Judah, shall not escape from the hand of the Chazdim, but certainly be given into the hand of the sovereign of Babel, and shall speak with him face to face, and see him eye to eye. And he shall lead Sidkiyahu to Babel, and be there until I visit him, declares Yahweh. Though you fight with the Chazdim, you shall not prosper. Question mark? Sorry, I'll just keep going. And Jeremiah said, The word of Yahweh came to me, saying, See, Hanamiel, son of Shallum, your uncle is coming to you, saying, Buy my field which is in Anathoth, for the right of redemption is yours to buy it. So Hanamael, my uncle's son, came to me in the court of the guard according to the word of Yahweh, and said to me, Please buy my field that is in Anathoth, which is in the land of Benjamin, for the right of inheritance is yours, and the redemption. Buy it for yourself. And I knew that this was the word of Yahweh. And I bought the field which was at Anathoth from Hanamael, my uncle's son, and weighed out to him the silver, 17 shekels of silver. And I signed the deed and sealed it, took witnesses, and weighed the silver in the scales. Then I took the deed of purchase that which was sealed according to the command and law, and that which was open, and I gave the deed to purchase to Baruch, son of Neriah, son of Maaseiah, in the presence of Hanamael, my uncle's son, and in the presence of the witness who signed the deed of purchase, before all the Yehudim who sat in the court of the guard. And I commanded Baruch before their eyes, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, Take these deeds, both this deed of purchase which is sealed, and this deed which is open, and put them in an earthen vessel, so that they remain many days. And thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel. Houses and fields and vineyards shall again be bought in this land. And after I had given the deed of purchase to Baruch, son of Neriah, I prayed to Yahweh, saying, Ah, Master Yahweh, see, you have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and outstretched arm. There is no matter too hard for you, who show to too hard for you who show loving commitment to thousands and repay the crookedness of the fathers into the bosom of their children after them. The great, the mighty El, Yahweh of hosts is his name. Great in counsel and mighty in work, for your eyes are open to all the ways of the sons of men, to give everyone according to his ways and according to the fruit of his deeds. For you have set signs and wonders in the land of Mitzrayim to this day, and in Israel and among other men, and you have made yourself a name as it is this day. And you have brought your people Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, with signs and wonders, with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, and with great fearsome deeds. And you gave them this land, of which you swore to their fathers to give them, a land flowing with milk and honey. And they came in and possessed it, and they did not obey your voice, nor did they walk in your Torah. They did not do all that you commanded them to do. So you brought all this evil upon them. That's a lesson for us, isn't it? See the siege mounds. They have come to the city to take it, and the city has been given into the hand of the Kasdim who fight against it, because of the sword and the scarcity of food and the pestilence. And what you have spoken has come about, and look, you see it. Yet you, O Master Yahweh, have said to me, buy the field for silver and take witness, although the city has been given into the hand of the Kasdim. Then the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, see, I am Yahweh, the Elohim of all flesh. Is there any matter too hard for me? Therefore, thus said Yahweh, see, I am giving this city into the hand of the Kasdim, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, and he shall take it. And the Kasdim who fight against this city shall come and set fire to this city and burn it, with the houses on whose roofs they burned incense to Baal, and poured out drink offerings to other mighty ones to provoke me. For the children of Israel and the children of Judah have done only evil before me from their youth. For the children of Israel have only provoked me with the work of their hands, declares Yahweh. For this city has been a cause for my displeasure and my wrath from the day that I built it, even to this day, that I should remove it from before my face. Because of all the evil of the children of Israel and the children of Judah, which they have done to provoke me, they, their kings, their heads, their priests, their prophets, and the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And they have turned their back to me and not their face. Though I taught them, rising up early and teaching them, they did not listen to receive instruction. And they set their abominations in the house which is called by my name, to defile it. And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to offer up their sons and their daughters to Molech, which I did not command them, nor did it come into my heart that they should do this abomination. I make Judah sin. To make Judah sin. Excuse me. Verse 36, and now thus said Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, concerning this city of which you say, it shall be given into the hand of the king of Babel by the sword, by the scarcity of food, and by scarcity of food, and by pestilence. See, I am gathering them out of all the lands where I have driven them in my displeasure, and in my wrath, and in great rage. And I shall bring them back to this place, and shall let them dwell in safety. And they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim. And I shall give them one heart and one way to fear me all the days, for the good of them and of their children after them. And I shall make an everlasting covenant with them, that I do not turn back from doing to them doing good to them, and I shall put my fear in their hearts so as not to turn aside from me. And I shall rejoice over them to do good to them, and shall plant them in this land in truth, with all my heart and with all my being. For thus said Yahweh, as I have brought all this great evil on this people, so I am bringing on them all the good that I am speaking to them. The fields shall be bought in this land of which you are saying, it is a wasteland, without man or beast. It has been given into the hand of the Kasdim. Fields shall be bought for silver, and deeds signed and sealed, and witnesses be called in the land of Benjamin, and in the places around Jerusalem, and in the cities of Judah, and in the cities of the mountains, and in the cities of the low country, and in the cities of the south, for I shall turn back their captivity, declares Yahweh. Chapter 33. And the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah a second time, while he was still shut up in the court of the guard, saying, Thus said Yahweh, who made it, Yahweh who formed it, to establish it. Yahweh is his name. Call unto me, and I shall answer you, and show you great and inaccessible matters, which you have not known. For thus said Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, concerning the houses of this city and the houses of the kings of Judah, which are thrown down against the siege mound and the sword, while coming to fight with the Kasdim, and to fill their places with the corpses of men, whom I shall strike in my displeasure and my wrath, all for whose evil I have hidden my face from this city. See, I am bringing it to relief and healing, and I shall heal them and reveal to them the riches of peace and truth. And I shall turn back the captivity of Judah and the captivity of Israel, and shall build them as at the first, and shall cleanse them from all their crookedness, and that they have sinned against me, and I shall pardon all their crookedness that they have sinned, and by which they have transgressed against me. And it shall be to me a name of joy, a praise, and a pride before all nations of the earth, whom hear all the good I am doing to them, and they shall fear and tremble for all the goodness and all the peace I am doing to it. Thus said Yahweh, in the place of which you say, it is dried up, without man and without beast, in the cities of Judah, in the streets of Jerusalem that are deserted, without man and without inhabitant and without beast, there shall once again be heard the voice of joy. There shall once again be heard the voice of joy and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the voice of those who are saying, excuse me, they're saying, praise Yahweh of hosts, for Yahweh is good, for his loving commitment is forever. For those who are bringing the offering of praise unto the house of Yahweh, for I shall turn back the captivity of the land as at the first, declares Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, in this place which is dried up, without man and without beast, and in all its cities, there shall once again be a home of shepherds causing their flocks to lie down. In the cities of the mountains, and in the cities of the low country, and in the cities of the south, and in the land of Benjamin, and in the places around Jerusalem, and in the cities of Judah, the flocks once again pass under the hands of him who counts them, declares Yahweh. See, the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when I shall establish the good word which I have promised to the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In those days and at that time, I cause a branch of righteousness to spring forth from David, and he shall do right ruling and righteousness in the earth. In those days, Judah shall be saved, and Jerusalem dwell in safety. And this is that which shall be proclaimed to her, Yahweh our righteousness. For thus said Yahweh, for David there is not For David there is not to cease a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel. And for the priests and the Levite and for the priests, the Levites, there is not to cease a man to offer ascending offerings before me, to kindle grain offering, and to slaughter continually. And the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, Thus said Yahweh, if you could with all the break my covenant with the day of my let me start that verse again. Verse 20. Thus said Yahweh, if you could break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so that there be not day and night in their season, then my covenant could also be broken with David my servant, so that he shall not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites the priests my attendants. As the host of the heavens is not counted, nor the sand of the sea measured, so I increase the descendants of David my servant, and the Levites who attend upon me. And the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, Have you not observed what these people have spoken, saying, The two clans which Yahweh has chosen have been rejected by him? So they have despised my people, no more to be a nation before them. Thus said Yahweh, if my covenant is not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the laws of the heavens and earth, then I would also reject the descendants of Jacob and David my servant, so that I should not take of his descendants to be rulers over the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For I shall turn back their captivity and have compassion on them. The word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, chapter 34, verse 1. The word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh when Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, and all his army, and all the reigns of the earth under his rule, and all the people fought against Jerusalem and all its cities, saying, Thus said Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, Go and speak to Sidkiyahu, king of Judah, and say to him, Thus said Yahweh, See, I am giving this city into the hand of the king of Babel, and he shall burn it with fire. And you shall not escape out of his hand, but certainly be taken and given into his hand. And your eyes shall see the eyes of the king of Babel, and his mouth shall speak with your mouth, and you shall go to Babel. But hear the word of Yahweh, O Sidkiyahu, king of Judah. Thus said Yahweh concerning you, You shall not die by the sword. In peace you are to die, and as in the burnings of spices for your fathers, the former kings who were before you. So they shall burn spices for you and lament for you, saying, Alas, master, for I have spoken the word, declares Yahweh. And Jeremiah the prophet spoke all these words to Sidkiyahu, the king of Judah, in Jerusalem, while the king of Babel's army was fighting against Jerusalem and all the cities of Judah that were left against Lachish and Azekah. For only these walled cities remained of the cities of Judah. The word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh after King Sidkiyahu had made a covenant with all the people who were at Jerusalem to proclaim release to them, that everyone was to set free his male and female slave, and the Hebrew man and the Hebrew woman. No one was to keep a Jew his brother enslaved. And when all the heads of all the people who had come into the covenant heard that each one was to set free his male and female slaves, and not to keep them enslaved any longer, they obeyed and released them. But afterward they changed their minds and made the male and female slaves return, whom they had set free, and brought them into subjection as male and female slaves. Therefore the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, that's an interesting way that was phrased, isn't it? Therefore, the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Thus said Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, I myself made a covenant with your fathers in the day that I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage, saying, At the end of 7 years, each one should set free his Hebrew brother who has been sold to him. And when he has served you 6 years, you shall let him go free from you. But your fathers did not obey me nor incline their ear. Does anybody know uh, what the year is called in that 7th year? When he has served you 6 years, you shall let him go free from you. If you know, put it in the chat. But your fathers did not obey me nor incline their ear. And you recently turned and did what was right in my eyes. Each man proclaimed release to his neighbor. And you made a covenant before me in the house which is called by my name. But you turned back and profaned my name, and each one of you took back his male and female slaves, whom he had set free at their pleasure, and brought them into subjection to be your male and female slaves. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, you have not obeyed me in proclaiming release, each one to his brother and each one to his neighbor. See, I am proclaiming release to you, declares Yahweh, to the sword, to the pestilence, and to the scarcity of food. And I shall make you a horror to all the reigns of the earth. And I shall give the men who are transgressing my covenant, who have not established the words of the covenant which they made before me, when they when they cut the calf in two and passed between the parts of it, the heads of Judah and the heads of Jerusalem, the eunuchs and the priests and all the people of the land who passed between the parts of the calf. And I shall give them into the hand of their enemies and into the hand of those who seek their life. And their corpses shall be for food to the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the earth. And I shall give Sidkiyahu, king of Judah, and his heads into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of those who seek their life, and into the hand of the king of Babel's army that has withdrawn from you. See, I am commanding, declares Yahweh, and shall bring them back to this city, and they shall fight against it and take it and burn it with fire, and I shall make the cities of Judah a ruin without inhabitant. Boy, kind of struggling a little bit with this one. Anybody say Jubilee year? Well, that's what it's called. Oh, our baby is sleeping. Praise Yah. What did I miss? Oh yeah, okay. You had to go back a little further. Saucin, that is correct. Jubilee. Yep. And it was it was something that he commanded in the Torah, and he was telling them, um, he was giving them a reminder. Hey, it's a jubilee. You're gonna let all of the people go. You're gonna forgive the debts. You're gonna do these things. And once again, they didn't listen. It's kind of a recurring theme, something that I'm sure you and I can relate to at times throughout our life, and maybe even in the present. Okay, so what we have, let's see. What time? Okay. Yeah, hallelujah. We got a sleeping baby. We gotta hit a couple more chapters to stay on track to finish this um by before Shabbat. So that's not too much more reading. Let's see where we're at. 35. We read 29, 30. Yeah, we'll read one more chapter. The word which came to Jeremiah from Yahweh in the days of Jehoiakim, son of Yashiyahu, king of Judah, saying, Go to the house of the Rechabites, and you shall speak to them and bring them into the house of Yahweh, into one of the rooms, and give them wine to drink. And I took Yaazana, Yaaz, Yaaz, Yaazanya, took Lasagna, the son of Jeremiah. No, sorry. And I took Yaazanya, the son of Jeremiah, the son of Habatzitz. Really? Habatz, Habatzitzenya, Habatzitzenya, and his brothers, and all his sons, and all the house of the Rechabites, and brought them into the house of Yahweh, into the room of the sons of Hanan, son of Higdalyahu, a man of Elohim, which was by the chamber of the heads, above the room of Maasayahu, son of Shallum, the keeper of the door. And I set before the sons of the house of the Rechabites bowls filled with wine and cups, and I said to them, Drink wine. But they said, We do not drink wine, because Jonadab, the son of Rechab, our father, commanded us, saying, You shall not drink wine, neither you nor your sons forever. And do not build a house, neither sow seed, nor plant a vineyard, nor have any of these, but dwell in tents all your days, so that you live many days on the face of the land where you are sojourners. So they obeyed the voice of Jonadab, son of Rechab, our father, in all that he commanded us, to drink no wine all our days, we, our wives, or our sons and daughters, nor to build ourselves houses to dwell in, and we have no vineyard, field, or seed. But we dwell in tents, and have obeyed and done according to all that Jonadab, our father, commanded us. And it came to be when Nebuchadrezzar, same guy, king of Babel, came upon the land, that we said, Come, let us go to Jerusalem, for fear of the army of the Chasdim, and for fear of the armies of the Arameans. So we dwell at Jerusalem. And the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, Go, and you shall say to the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, Have you not received instruction to obey my words, declares Yahweh? The words of Jonadab, son of Rechab, which he commanded his sons not to drink wine, are established, and they have not drunk unto this day, for they have obeyed their father's command. And as for me, I have spoken to you, rising early and speaking, but you do not obey me. And I sent to you all my servants and prophets, rising up early and sending them, saying, Turn each one from his evil way, and make good your deeds, and do not go after other mighty ones to serve them. And you shall dwell in the land which I have given you and your fathers, but you have not inclined your ear, nor obeyed me. The sons of Jonadab, son of Rechab, have indeed carried out the command of their father, which he commanded them. But this people has not obeyed me. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, Elohim of hosts, Elohim of Israel, See, I am bringing on Judah and on all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evil I have pronounced against them, because I have spoken to them, but they did not listen, and I have called to them, but they did not answer. And Jeremiah said to the house of the Rechabites, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, because you have obeyed the commands of Jonadab your father, and guarded all his commands, and have done according to all that he commanded you. Therefore, thus said Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, of Jonadab, son of Rechab, there shall never cease to be a man to stand before me. Chapter 36, and it came to be in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Yoshiyahu, king of Judah, that this word came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, take a scroll and write it on all the words that I have spoken to you against Israel and against Judah and against all the nations from the day I spoke to you, from the days of Yoshiyahu, even to this day. Verse 3. It could be that the house of Yehuda hears all the evil which I plan to bring upon them, so that each one turns back from his evil way, and I shall pardon their crookedness and their sin. And Jeremiah called Baruch, son of Neriah, and Baruch wrote on a scroll from the mouth of Jeremiah, all the words of Yahweh which he had spoken to him. And Jeremiah commanded Baruch, saying, I am shut up. I am unable to enter the house of Yahweh. But you shall enter, and shall read from the scroll which you have written from my mouth the words of Yahweh. You're going to read the words of Yahweh which are from my mouth that you wrote on a scroll. Copy. The words of Yahweh in the hearing of the people in the house of Yahweh on the day of fasting. And also read them in the hearing of all the Yehudah who come from their cities, of all Judah who come from their cities. It could be that they present their supplication before Yahweh and they turn back, each one from his evil way. For great is the displeasure and the wrath that Yahweh has spoken against this people. And Baruch, son of Neriah, did according to all that Yirmiyahu the prophet commanded him, reading from the book the words of Yahweh in the house of Yahweh. And it came to be in the 5th year of Jehoiakim, son of Yoshiyahu, sovereign of Judah, in the 9th new moon, that they called a fast before Yahweh to all the people in Jerusalem, and to all the people who came from the cities of Judah to Jerusalem. And Baruch read from the book the words of Jeremiah in the house of Yahweh, in the room of Gemariahu, son of Shaphan, the scribe, in the upper courtyard at the entry of the new gate of the house of Yahweh, in the hearing of all the people. And Micaiah, son of Gemariahu, son of Shaphan, heard all the words of Yahweh from the book. And then he went down to the king's house, into the scribe's room, and there all the heads were sitting. Elishama, the scribe, and Deliahu, son of Shemaiahu, and Elnathan, son of Achbor, and Gemariahu, son of Shaphan, and Sidkiyahu, son of Hananyahu, and all the heads. And Micaiah told them all the words which he heard when Baruch read the book in the hearing of all the people. Then all the heads sent Yehudai, Jews, then all the heads sent Yehudai, son of Nethanyahu, son of Shalamyahu, son of Cushi, to Baruch, saying, take in your hand the scroll from which you have read in the hearing of the people, and come. So Baruch, son of Neriyahu, took the scroll in his hand and came to them. Any of you guys heard of Baruch, 1st and 2nd Baruch. This will be some books that we read in the future. Verse 15, and they said to him, sit down, please, and read it in our hearing. Then Baruch read it in their hearing. And it came to be, when they had heard all the words, that they looked at each other in fear and said to Baruch, we are certainly going to report all these words to the king. And they asked Baruch, saying, please explain to us, how did you write all these words? From his mouth? And Baruch answered them, from his mouth he spoke all these words to me, and I wrote them with ink in the book. Then the heads said to Baruch, go, hide, you and Jeremiah, and let no one know where you are. And they went to the king into the court, but they put the scroll in the room of Elishama the scribe, and told all the words in the hearing of the king. The king therefore sent Yehudai to bring the scroll, and he took it from the room of Elishama the scribe. And Yehudai read it in the hearing of the king, and in the hearing of all the heads standing beside the king. And the king was sitting in the winter house in the 9th new moon, with a fire burning on the hearth before him. Then it came to be, when Yehudai had read 3 or 4 columns, that the king cut it with the scribe's knife and threw it into the fire that was on the hearth, until the entire scroll was burned in the fire that was on the hearth. Yet the king and all his servants who heard all these words were not afraid, nor did they tear their garments. Moreover, Elnathan and Deliahu and Gemariahu pleaded with the king, do not burn the scroll, but he did not listen to them. And the king commanded Yerahmeel, son of the king, and Serayahu, son of Azrael, and Shalamyahu, son of Abdiel, to seize Baruch the scribe and Jeremiah the prophet, but Yahweh had hid them. Interesting. And after the sovereign had burned the scroll with the words which Baruch had written, from the mouth of Jeremiah, the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, take another scroll and write on it all the former words that were in the first scroll which Jehoiakim the king of Judah has burned. And say to Jehoiakim, sovereign of Judah, thus said Yahweh, you have burned this scroll, saying, why have you written in it that the king of Babel is certainly coming to destroy this land and cause man and beast to cease from here? Therefore, thus said Yahweh concerning Jehoiakim, king of Judah, he shall have no one to sit on the throne of David, and his dead body is to be thrown out to the heat of the day and the frost of the night. And I shall punish him and his seed and his servants for their crookedness. And I shall bring on them and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem and on the men of Judah all the evil I have spoken against them, but they did not listen. So Jeremiah took another scroll and gave it to Baruch, the scribe, son of Neriah, who wrote on it from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of the book which Jehoiakim, sovereign of the king of Judah, had burned in the fire, and many similar words were added to them. That's a cool story. And I'm reminded of a guy by the name of Ron Wyatt. I'll type it in the chat if it'll let me. Wyatt. I don't think it's going to let me for some reason. Ron Wyatt, anyways, if you don't know, just look into Ron Wyatt. Pretty cool guy. Pretty fascinating discoveries that he and I'll say he claims to have made, but I'll just tell you I believe that his discoveries were authentic personally. Ron Wyatt, very interesting character. But why that came to mind is because one of his discoveries was in Jeremiah's grotto, where Jeremiah had stashed the Ark of the Covenant. That's one of the reasons a lot of people discredit Ron Wyatt, because that's such a fantastic story. Such an incredible story in the sense of we can't actually verify or give credit to that story. Literally incredible. But along with the Ark of the Covenant, and I don't know why I'm all of a sudden talking about this, but um, he claims to have found blood on the Ark of the Covenant where the mercy seat is. And he had the blood tested. And he's got some documentation for some of this stuff. He's got witnesses. But he's passed now. And he took these stories to his grave. And I personally believe, praise Yah, you guys. I personally believe his findings to be real and authentic. And actually, let me see. Let me see if I can do something real quick. Many of you have heard of Kent Hovind, I'm sure. I'll go ahead and I'll put these on so I can hear. Hopefully you guys can as well. I'll share this screen real quick. Yeah. I believe Ron for sure, man. When you hear his testimony, and he took it to his grave, man. He took it to his grave. Now there are findings that we can verify. He for sure found Egyptian chariot wheels at the bottom of the Red Sea where Moses and the Israelites crossed through the Red Sea. We can prove that those were in fact Egyptian chariot wheels. They were literally gold and historically accurate for the time. And what else? There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them. I'm gonna share my screen real quick and oops, cancel, share screen, and there we go. Let's check this out.
The story that Ron Wyatt told me before he died. I sat in his living room and talked to him for 3 hours about the Ark of the Covenant. He said, Brother Hovind, I found the Ark of the Covenant. I said, yeah, right. Okay, and I'm Methuselah. I'm still around. He said, no, Brother Hovind, I really did. I said, well, tell me about it, Ron. Now, Ron was a great guy. He was the kind of guy that if I was God, I would let him find all these things because he wasn't out for any glory. He's not bragging about it. He wasn't, not looking for money. Just wanted to, he's a humble servant of the Lord. He had a lot of Seventh-day Adventist teaching in him, which I would disagree with, some of the things they teach. He wasn't a Seventh-day Adventist, but he believed some of the things they believe, okay? He said, I was walking along the north side of Jerusalem and with a Israeli friend of mine, and we're walking along, talking about things, and what happened here, because Ron's been a student of Scripture for many, many years, okay, and knew it extremely well. He said, we're walking along, all of a sudden my left arm stuck out, and I pointed to this garbage dump. There's a pile of rubble been there for hundreds of years, up against the side of this cliff. and there's a road along the bottom. There's a big cliff and another plateau on top. He said, my left arm stuck out and my mouth started speaking, and my mouth said, that's Jeremiah's grotto. The Ark of the Covenant's down there. And his friend that was with him said, what did you say? He said, I think I just said that's Jeremiah's grotto and the Ark of the Covenant's down there. The guy said, well, great, let's dig it out. Ron said, no, I got to go home and look at the scriptures and make sure this is possible. I said, I don't know about this. So he went home and searched all the scriptures. He found out the ark never left Jerusalem. At least it's never told that it left Jerusalem, and it didn't come back. All of a sudden, it just kind of quietly disappeared during the days of Jeremiah. The ark is mentioned up until that point, but it's just gone from the scriptures. Never mentioned again. Now, let's look at 2 Chronicles chapter 26. King Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the host shields and spears and helmets and harbor guns and bows and slings to cast stones. And he made in Jerusalem engines invented by cunning men to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks to shoot arrows and great stones. So Uzziah made catapults, going to fling big stones. These things are on the walls in Jerusalem. Here the Bible tells us that King Uzziah made these. Well, a couple of hundred years later, Nebuchadnezzar comes to take over Jerusalem. He doesn't want his guys walking up to the wall because these guys got these huge machines on top that fling stones. Catapults. Uzziah made these catapults to fling big stones. So they would, of course, have some kind of maximum range. I mean, you couldn't fling them forever. So apparently, Nebuchadnezzar built a wall outside the range of these catapults. Object is to starve the people out. A siege. It's, you go, you camp around, nobody comes in, nobody goes out. Eventually, they run out of food. And so they built a wall outside the city wall. Jerusalem already had a city wall. They back up a few hundred yards or whatever their maximum range was, build another wall. Nebuchadnezzar did. Inside these two is called no man's land. Catapults can't fling the rocks quite far enough to hit the new wall, and nobody can get through to bring you any more food, so it's just a matter of time till you're starving. After you've eaten all the food, then you eat all the horses and all the cows and then the rats, and then then you surrender. Maybe. So Ron said he figures that Jeremiah knew they were going to lose. The king was not listening to God's word. God said surrender, they wouldn't surrender. Nebuchadnezzar is going to take over. Jeremiah said, well, I better hide the ark and some of the temple furniture. So he thinks Jeremiah took the Ark of the Covenant, the table of showbread, some of the important temple furniture, took it out at night in between these two walls, outside the city wall, but inside the siege wall, and took it into one of a cave area. And there's caves all over there. It's like honeycomb, this area, that, little tunnels and big tunnels, and you crawl around and get lost and they never find you. He took it back in one of these and then built a false wall in front of it. And Jeremiah and everybody else went off into captivity. And apparently he died there and didn't get a chance to tell anybody where it was. Or, for whatever reason, people lost track of where it was. And for 2,600 years, nobody knew where the Ark of the Covenant was. Ron spends the next 8 years, I believe he said, digging through this garbage dump, moving mountains of rubble. It's been accumulating for hundreds of years. He said, as they're digging, there's a wall and then a flat place where the road was and a bunch of junk piled up against it. So they're digging and moving all this junk he said, he went over there as much time as he could spare for, I think he said 8 years. Okay. He and his sons, and he would hire people over there, pay them to come work moving all this junk. As they moved the pile down lower and lower, they came to 3 squares cut into the rock, into the side of this cliff. Obviously chiseled in by somebody, a couple inches deep, just recessed. He thought, now that is strange. What is this? Three of them. Kept digging down farther and farther through the junk. And they came to a little ledge sticking out, solid rock, with a square hole in it. And there was kind of a truncated pyramid shape stuck in the hole. So he pulls this rock out, and there's a square hole about 2.5 feet deep. Somebody's chiseled this into the rock. He said, yeah, Brother Holman, here's the plug I took out. He goes over, he's using it for a doorstop in his house up in Nashville. He said, this is the plug I took out. Apparently, this hole was to put a cross in to crucify somebody. and they would keep, when they're not using it, they stick the plug in the hole to keep dirt out of the hole. Right above this were the three things set into the rock. He said, I think that's where they put the signs in three languages, what the guy's being crucified for, what his crime was. He said, we kept moving more junk out of the way, and we found three more holes down a little lower. So they had a ledge where the important criminal was crucified, and then three more, one on each side and one straight in front. He said, apparently they were set up, they could crucify a max of 4 at a time. He said, while we're digging through this, we also found, he said, it was really strange. We found, all of a sudden, we hit a layer of a whole bunch of rocks about the size of hardballs, baseballs. Hundreds and hundreds of these rocks. And then we began finding all sorts of fragments of finger bones. Bones of people's fingers. Little slivers. He said, I work at the hospital. He's a nurse anesthesiologist. He said, I recognized them right away. I said, these are finger bones. What are they doing here? And he said, man, I bet this is where they stoned people to death. Everybody's throwing rocks at you. What are you going to do? Put your hands up to cover your face. It's going to smack your fingers right off. So he said he's digging along, and he notices from this one hole up on the ledge, the one by itself, there's a crack in the solid rock. He said it's this huge solid rock slab, and it's cracked right in the middle. So I thought that was kind of strange, about a ½ inch wide, just a little crack, but real long crack, running straight out from the foot of this square hole. He said, we didn't think anything of it. We're over there digging and spending weeks and months, and after several years of digging over there, they find this cave system which goes everywhere. Here's a picture of Ron going into some of the caves. He said, many of these holes you have to breathe out in order to squeeze through. I mean, it's that tight. He said, we're digging and exposing these things all over the place, and we find this little cave, and we squeeze in and find out there's nothing there, so you go back out and find, He said, we're exploring all these caves. He said, all of a sudden, one of my Arab friends came out through one of these little holes, and he said, I quit, and took off. He didn't even give me a chance to explain why. He just said, I quit. Okay? It's sort of like the cave crawler, only all rock. No way to rescue you, okay? That cave crawler we did up at the Sequoia Cave, or cave in Alabama, Childersburg, Alabama. Oh, anyway. DeSoto Caverns, thank you. Okay. So Ron squeezes into this area, and he squeezes through and opens up into a bigger room. And he said he's looking around in here with his flashlight, and he sees a little gold glint, flash back at him. So he goes over and he, dusts this thing off, and there's the table of showbread.
So right after we finish this video, is not too much longer, but after we finish this, I'm going to show you the testimony of Ron Wyatt, talking about what I believe to be the most significant of all his findings. We'll continue this one.
He thinks it's the table of showbread. A little table, a little smaller than this, all gold. And he said, and he looked back in this one end area, and he could see this on the far right side. The upper picture is a picture that he drew. He said it looked like a box made out of solid rock. Somebody taken this big rock and hollowed out the middle, chiseled out the middle, and put a solid rock lid on top of it. He said, but it was real close to the ceiling, and he said, I couldn't get my head over the top to see what's in the box. But the lid had been cracked, and part of it was moved away. And right above the crack in the lid was a crack in the ceiling. And he said, we finally did a bunch of measurements and figured out that crack in the ceiling goes straight up to the crack that we found earlier up above from this, where the cross was. He says, I think Jesus, when he died on the cross, the Bible says the rocks rent, and his blood ran right down through that crack, right onto the Ark of the Covenant, which was inside right below him in 15 or 20 feet of rock. I mean, that sure preaches good. I don't know if it's true or not, right?
So we'll go ahead and skip over now to Ron Wyatt's testimony of this finding. I think it's incredible, and when you listen to this man's voice, this is not the voice of somebody who's lying or making this up.
Good evening, Ron. Thank
Hi.
you very much for all three for seminars. Wonderful, thank you. My question is that you said that you had the blood of our Lord examined by the Israelis.
That's correct.
What was their determination of that?
Okay. Now, we won't be able to take second questions. I'm sorry if you're on your second one, please just step out. I love you, but we're running out of time. Real quickly, okay. Dried blood is dead blood. Everybody knows that, all right? They can test the blood of the pharaohs, the mummies of the pharaohs, all right? There's certain things they can do. They cannot get a chromosome count by any method I'm familiar with, all right? Things keep changing. I don't profess to know everything. However, there's no way I know that you can get a chromosome count out of dead blood. You can get a DNA and some other things, but not a chromosome count, all right? That's done by living white blood cells. Now then, first of all, in this analysis, I took the blood into a laboratory in Israel. I asked one of the people I work with in antiquities, where is a good laboratory that does reliable work? And they said, such and such, such and such. I took it. I just said, please examine this blood and tell me what you can tell me about it. All right. They said, well, look, we're going to reconstitute it. We're going to put it in normal saline and keep it at body temperature for 72 hours with gentle swirling. All right. That's their business. That's great. I said, now I want to be there when you check it out. They said, fine. So I was back. They checked it out. I said, now, they said it's human blood. We can tell that. They did whatever tests they need to do. And then I said, take some of the white blood cells and put them in a growth medium and keep them at body temperature for 48 hours. And they said, well, that'll do no good because it's dead blood. I said, would you please do that for me? And they said, okay, we'll do it. So anyway, I said, I want to be there when you take it out and examine it. So I was back there. They took it out, examined it under a microscope, and the one technician called the other one over there, and then they called the boss over there, and they were talking Hebrew a mile a minute there for a little bit. And they looked at me and they said, Mr. Wyatt, this human blood only has 24 chromosomes in it. Everybody else has 46. You see, 23 from your mother, 23 from your father, 22 autosomes from your mother, 22 autosomes from your father. You get an X from your mother, you may get an X or a Y from your father, all right? This blood had 23 chromosomes from the mother's side, one Y chromosome only. You see, a child could not have developed if they hadn't had the autosomes from the mother. So all of his physical characteristics were determined by his mother's side of the family, her autosomes. His maleness was determined by this one Y that came from a source, not a human male. Then they said, this blood is alive. And then they said, whose blood is this? I said, it's the blood of your Messiah.
I believe him. I 100% believe that testimony is true. And I appreciate you guys hanging out. Obviously, our little guy is no longer asleep. And I'm going to jump off here so I can help out a little bit. I think that was a good place to end this video anyways. But yeah, hallelujah. All glory to the Most High. We love you guys. We will see you again on Wednesday. All right. Shalom.